BookTube, welcome back to my channel. I went to the library yesterday. I picked up 7 books. I thought I'd do a library haul, so stay tuned for my next library haul. I think I did a library haul maybe 2 weeks ago. These are becoming way more frequent than they used to be, but that's just the luck of the draw, I suppose. I went to the library yesterday. I've been going to the library pretty frequently because I have a lot of books out. I have 46 books checked out from the library right now. A lot of them are books that I've already read, and I'm just holding on because I still need to do a review for the channel, and I don't know, but getting pretty close to my limit. I think the limit used to be 50 books. I think it's now 60. Or is it the fines that have increased? I know the fines used to be $10, and I think they're $15 that you can run up now without having to pay or be cut off from library access. But in any case, yesterday I went to the local library, which is no longer my local library because I no longer live there, but I still kind of work in the same area. So I'm there in that community very often. But that local branch, they're having renovations. So I've been sending my reserves to another library that's not far away, and that's a little closer to one of the places where I spend time. In any case, I went to that branch yesterday to pick up these books, and I was having a chat with the librarian. So, you know, she asks me, because I guess most of the people that come there don't check out the kinds and numbers of books that I take out at once, or they don't have 46 books on their account checked out. So she was talking to me about the books and asking me about my interest and how I come to reserve these books. So we had this long talk. I was telling her about BookTube, which she didn't know. I was like, lady, you need to get on the program. BookTube is where it's at. So I didn't tell her about my channel because I don't really promote myself like that. But I was telling her that there's a community on YouTube where people talk about books. And she's like, okay, I think I'll check that out. So maybe the next time I see her, I'll ask her if she did. And if she's interested, then I'll tell her about my channel. But for now, we were just talking about books in general. So I told her I'm reading some of these Australian writers in April for #AussieApril. She's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And she, you know, she asked me how I came to make that selection, and which is how the BookTube discussion got started. But then I was also telling her about my Man Booker challenge, where I'm reading books that have won the Man Booker, or really for most of its history, it was just called the Booker Prize. So I was telling her about that, and she said, you know, I think there's someone else who's doing that. And I was like, yeah, who? You need to tell me. Let's link up. So in any case, long intro, I have 7 books that I got from the library yesterday. Some of them are books by Australian authors. A couple of them are Booker Prize winners that I just need to want to read. So I'll just tell you what they are. I don't know too much about these books. I'm going to read you the synopsis. The first one is A Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood, and this is a Stella Prize winner. Is it the last Stella Prize winner? I'm not sure. No, it won the Stella Prize in 2016. The Stella Prize, which I talked about in my #AussieApril TBR video. Stella Prize is a literary prize given to female writers in Australia, and this is one of the books that won. And when I was reading the synopsis, I was pretty intrigued, so I'm going to read it to you as well. And I love that this is a Europa Editions book. I love Europa books. My first introduction, I think, to Europa books was the Neapolitan novels, which I have reviewed the entire series, and I'll link that down below if you're interested in hearing me wax on about Elena Ferrante and her novels. But The Natural Way of Things by Charlotte Wood. Here's a synopsis. Dressed in old-fashioned rags and fiending for a cigarette, Yolanda wakes up in an empty room with no memory of how she got there. Verla, a young woman who seems familiar, sits nearby. Down a hallway echoing loudly with voices on a stark compound deep in the Australian outback, other captive women are just coming to. Sedated and disorientated, the girls can't be sure of anything. Disorientated? Shouldn't it be disoriented? Anyway, sedated and disorientated, the girls can't be sure of anything except the salacious episodes in their past that link them. For each woman is marked by her own public sex scandal, and as a result is now the ward of a bizarre system of corporate control. This one is just a little over 200 pages, 214 pages, which I feel like I'd be able to read this in a day. So, and not just a day, but an easy day, like a to or from commute. one day. So I'm reading that for hashtag Aussie April. Here are some other books I'm reading for hashtag Aussie April. Next book was also recommended to me. This one is Emily Bitto's The Strays. This is the author. I think this one was recommended to me because the author is an Indigenous Australian, but I'm not sure. Since this is her picture, I'm not sure what I expect her to look like. But in any case, this is the 2015 Stella Prize winner. And here's a synopsis of The Strays. On her first day at a new school, Lily befriends Eva and her sisters Beatrice and Heloise, daughters of the infamous avant-garde painter Evan Trentham. An only child from an unremarkable working-class family, Lily has never experienced a household like the Trenthams. A community of like-minded artists Evan and his wife have created, all living and working together to escape the stifling conservatism of 1930s Australia. And Lily has never met anyone like Eva, whose unabashed confidence and worldly knowledge immediately draw her in. Infatuated by the creative chaos of the Trenthams and the artists who orbit them, Lily aches to fully belong in their world, craving something beyond her own ordinary life. She becomes a fixture in their home, where she and Eva spend their days lounging in the garden, filching cigarettes and wine and skirting the fringes of the adults' glamorous lives, who create scandalous art during the day and host lavish, debauched parties by night. But as seductive as the artist's utopian vision appears, behind it lies both darkness and dysfunction. The further the girls are pulled in, the greater the consequences. So I'm not sure how old Eva and Lily are supposed to be. It says it's a hauntingly powerful story about the fierce friendship between three sisters and their friend as they grow up on the outskirts of their parents' wild and bohemian artistic lives. So I'm guessing these are teenagers, coming of age, teenage novel. I'm not sure. This one is 240 pages. The Strays by Emily Bitto. Another book that I got, which was highly recommended, is Terra Nullius by Claire G. Coleman. This one was shortlisted for the Stella Prize, and I think this author is also an Indigenous Australian. There's another piece up here which I can't read because the New York Public Library decided to put their sticker right on top of the paragraph. It says something about Jackie was running. All he had was a sense of what was behind what he was running from. Jackie was running. But here's the rest of the synopsis. The natives of the colony are restless. The settlers are eager to bring peace to their new home, and they have a plan for how to achieve it. They will tear native families apart and provide re-education to those who do not understand why they should submit to their betters. Peace and prosperity are worth any price, but who will pay it? This rich land, Australia, will provide for all if only the natives can learn their place. Jackie has escaped the home where the settlers sent him, but where will he go? The head of the Department for the Protection of Natives, known to settlers and natives alike as the Devil, is chasing Jackie, and when the Devil catches him, Sister Bagra, who knows her duty to the ungodly, will be waiting for Jackie back at home. It says it's an incendiary, timely, and fantastical debut from an essential Australian Aboriginal writer, Claire G. Coleman. Do you recognize this story? Look again. Claire G. Coleman, it says, is a writer from Western Australia who identifies with the South Coast Noongar people. Terra Nullius is her first novel. This one is about 300 pages, and it has a transcript of an interview with the author in the back, as well as I feel like it has questions, reading guide questions. Is that what these are? Yep, reading group discussion questions. So I am gonna read this one this month. I'm definitely reading this one. I have it on my TBR for the month, and I feel like I want to get to that one sooner rather than later. I have one more book that is on my hashtag Aussie April TBR, and this is Burial Rites by Hannak. This one was much talked about a few years ago. I didn't read it then. I think it was shortlisted for the Stella Prize as well, and I want to read it now. So this is the author, Hannak, and it says she was born in Adelaide in 1985. As a teenager, she traveled on a Rotary exchange to Iceland, where she first heard the story of Agnes Magnusdóttir. Kent is the co-founder and deputy editor of the Australian literary journal Kill Your Darlings and is completing her PhD at Flinders University. Burial Rites is her first novel. So here's a synopsis of Burial Rites, which I think is set in Iceland. Not I think, it is set in Iceland. It starts with these words: "They said I must die. They said that I stole the breath from men, and now they must steal mine." Charged with the brutal murder of two men, Agnes, Magnus' daughter, has been removed to her homeland's farthest reaches to an isolated farm in northern Iceland to await execution. Horrified at the prospect of housing a convicted murderer, the family on the farm avoids Agnes. Her arrival threatens the peaceful rhythm of their way of life, while her stoic approach to the daily chores is an unsettling contrast to the passion that rumor has it drove her to kill. Disturbing proof for them of the dangers that can lurk beneath a placid surface. Only Toddy, a priest Agnes has mysteriously chosen to be her spiritual guardian, seeks to understand her. As the winter months pass and Agnes's death looms closer, the farmer's wife and his daughters learn there is another side to the sensational tale they've heard, but will their new knowledge be enough to save her? Hannak brings to vivid life the saga of this young woman, the last to be publicly beheaded in Iceland in the early 19th century. Riveting and rich with lyricism, Burial Rites evokes a dramatic existence in a distant time and place, and asks the heartbreaking question, how can one woman hope to endure when her life depends upon the stories told by others? Inspired by true events, this is an astonishing and exhilarating read that gives voice to a fierce and daring heroine and heralds the arrival of a great new talent. Burial Rites by Hannak. It's been so long, I don't remember what people said about it, what their experience, whether people loved it or not, but I'm intrigued. I want to read this. I don't know how I'm going to stop myself from not reading some of these books today and putting off all the other things that I need to read. This is a little over 300 pages, hardcover. Looking forward to that one. And I feel like Peter Carey is also an Australian writer. Yes, he is. Peter Carey won the Booker Prize for his novel Oscar and Lucinda, and this is his book A Long Way From Home, which I haven't read yet. Here's a synopsis. No, first let me show you Peter Carey. This is him. He was born in Australia. Yep, so Peter Carey is Australian. He was born in Australia. He lives in New York, and I was reading his Wikipedia page. It's pretty fascinating. But here's a synopsis for A Long Way From Home. There we go. A wildly exuberant, it says, wildly new novel about a race that circumnavigates 1954 Australia, revealing as much about the country and continent as it does about the three audacious individuals who take part. Irene Bobbs loves fast driving. Her husband is the best car salesman in southeastern Australia. Together, they enter the Red X trial, a brutal race over roads and creek beds no car will ever quite survive. With them is their lanky, fair-haired navigator, deposed quiz show champion and failed school teacher Willie Backhuber. If they win the Red X, the Bob's name alone will get them a dealership, and Willie will have recharged a life currently ground to a halt. But before any of that might happen, their official strip maps will lead them without warning out of the comfortable white Australia they know so well. A breakneck, always near disaster, often hilarious, eye-opening adventure that at the same time reminds us how white people took possession of a timeless culture, the high purpose they invented, and the crimes they committed along the way. A Long Way From Home is Peter Carey's late-style masterpiece. That's intriguing. This is a little over 300 pages, is it? Yep, 314 pages. So, I don't know how I'm going to stop myself from reading all those Australian books this week, but I also have two other books that were previous Man Booker winners that I'm reading this month from my Man Booker Reading Challenge. First is Salman Rushdie's Midnight's Children, which I read last year and talked about last year. And I'm really looking forward to diving into again. This personifies the Indian independence through the lives of some children who are born on the stroke of midnight on the day when India becomes independent from British colonization. And Rushdie tells the story through these families, but we don't know who they are and why it's happening until much into the novel. But it is such a gripping book. I don't know. It's over 500 pages. I got this one from the library. I'm ordering a copy. I should have done that already, but I had to get this one from the library because I need to read it in April. But I'm gonna buy my own copy because that's a book that I feel like I want to recommend to more people. I feel like it should be on my shelf. And the last book that I got from the library is Offshore by Penelope Fitzgerald, which is another book I read last year, but I'm rereading it this year because I'm reading all the Booker Prize winners in the order of their publication. And this one is in my April reading. Offshore, I think, is this the book club read for April? No, the book club read for April is Salman Rushdie, Midnight's Children. So you definitely know a video is coming for that soon. Here's a synopsis for Offshore by Penelope Fitzgerald. I should have read you the synopsis. Let's read the synopsis for Midnight's Children first. Greeted by fireworks displays, cheering crowds, and Prime Minister Nehru himself, Salim Sanai is born at the stroke of midnight on August 15, 1947, the very moment of India's independence. Salim grows up to learn the ominous consequences of this coincidence. His every act is mirrored and magnified in events that sway the course of national affairs. His health and well-being are inextricably bound to those of his nation. His life is inseparable, at times indistinguishable from the history of his country. Perhaps most remarkable are the telepathic powers linking him with India's 1,000 other Midnight's Children, all born in that initial hour and endowed with magical gifts. Family saga and everything. I love it. Here's a synopsis for Offshore by Penelope Fitzgerald. On the Battersea, the first line I can't read because, again, there's a sticker right over it, but it's about I think it's set on the Battersea. There's the synopsis someplace else. It's set on a river. All these people are living in a houseboat. So on the something, there's a mixed bag of the slightly disreputable, the temporary lost, and the patently eccentric live on houseboats, rising and falling with the great river's tides. Belonging to neither land nor sea, they cling to one another in a motley yet kindly society. There is Maurice, by occupation a male prostitute, by happenstance a receiver of stolen goods. And Richard, a buttoned-up ex-Navy man whose boat dominates the reach. Then there is Nena, a faithful but abandoned wife, the diffident mother of two young girls running wild on the waterfront streets. It is Nena's domestic predicament that, as it deepens, draws the relations among the scrubby community together into ever more complex and comic patterns. The result is one of Fitzgerald's greatest triumphs, a novel the Booker judges deemed flawless. I read this last year and I loved it and I hated it. So I'm looking forward to rereading it this year and seeing if I've been able to sort out my complex feelings in a way that I can communicate to you why this book is so good and so terrible. But these are the books that I got from the library yesterday. 7 books, all very interesting. I should tell you that Offshore is a little less than 200 pages, 180 pages long. So if I was only reading these books, I could definitely tell you that I'd read all of these books by the end of the month. But you've watched my TBR videos, so you know that I have way more books than these on my TBR. These are just the manifestation of some of the books that I told you about when I mentioned books that are still coming in from the library during the month. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video. If you like library hauls, I do them as often as I get books from the library. I think in the last week or so, I also got a couple of books that I didn't do a specific library haul for, but I've shown them to you in another way. Like I got Becoming by Michelle Obama sometime between my last library haul and now, but I talked about it in my TBR video. So thumbs up if you like this. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for everyone who subscribed already. I just hit 1,500 subscribers last night, and so it's great to know that I have 1,500 friends. So thank you for being here. And if you know someone who'd like to have a bookish conversation, definitely invite them over and let's talk books. Let me know if you've read any of these and which one you think I should prioritize. I mean, I'm planning to read all of these. I feel like I'm going to read all of these, but if I could only read one of these books for the rest of the month, which one would you suggest? Because you've read it and you loved it. A lot of you told me, I should mention that a lot of you recommended these 2 books to me, Terra and The Strays. So I know that you probably recommend that one again, but now that you've seen more books, which one would you recommend? So let's talk down there, and until next time, happy reading.